The next big Warhammer 40K game is upon us. Captain Titus returns after 13 years in Space Marine 2. Is 13 years a long enough time to make this a worthy successor to the series? Well, I guess that's for you to answer. One thing's for sure, you can play the full game including multiplayer modes on GeForce Now. This game can be pretty demanding though. Is GeForce Now a worthy platform for the Ultramarines to serve the Emperor? Let's find out. So first off, I'll only be covering the priority and ultimate tiers because this is a paid game. Especially for the ones who got the gold and ultra editions to play the game early, like me.
You big dummy!
Generally, if you can pay for the game, you'll be able to pay for a subscription. And really, I can already tell you it's going to be extremely difficult to play this game on the free tier. You might as well upgrade. Also, we'll have a full video on how to set up crossplay to play selected online game modes, so look for that soon. Now for all tiers, please note that we had input problems when we loaded the game. It just didn't register. This happened a number of times for us, so it might for you as well. We had to restart our session to fix it. Now let's start with the priority tier first. Regarding the performance of this tier, the priority tier only streams up to 1080p up to 60 FPS. There are two configurations you'll usually get with the priority tier, the RTX 2080 and the 3060 configuration respectively. Hit Ctrl N to get this network panel. Now we're much farther in the campaign at this point, but I love testing the first mission because it has a ton of enemies. At launch, Space Marine 2 is a really demanding game for several reasons. Now 1, it doesn't support DLSS 3 or FSR 3, which means no frame generation. Even though the priority tier can't do DLSS 3, it can handle FSR 3 and its frame generation, which it could really use. The game currently only supports DLSS 2 and FSR 2 for scaling options. And here's another reason. This game is running the Swarm engine like the game World War Z. This engine is designed to support literally hundreds of units on the screen, which is very impressive. But this still needs CPU power like everything else. And because of this, the frame drops are real for both configurations. I have hit the 20s on both configurations, even on the lowest graphic settings. GeForce Now defaults at high settings for both, but the frame drops are not because of the graphics. Now, can the ultimate tier help with this? Yes, but not as much as you might be expecting. On top of the same problems as the priority tier, the game doesn't support HDR or ray tracing. This game also doesn't support ultra widescreen resolutions. Most of these additions, including frame generation, will be supported later, which will help tremendously. Their calendar specifies ultra-wide support coming in Season 1. And lastly, for those wondering why I said history repeats itself, Warhammer 40K Darktide ran into the same problem 2 years ago. It's generally time for upgrades. We talked about this problem with Darktide here, and then next year came around and the 3080 tier became the ultimate tier with 4080 hardware. Our GeForce Now 2-year cycle is right around the corner, and hopefully it'll come early next year. The past 2 games I have covered have had the same issues: Star Wars Outlaws and Black Myth Wukong. If it wasn't for frame generation, these games would be in the same boat frame-wise. So in terms of running this game on the ultimate tier, this might be the only way to play the game efficiently. GeForce Now sets the default settings to high settings on native DLSS. Changing the DLSS settings or lowering graphic settings didn't do much in certain areas because so much is going on. The Swarm engine used to handle these mobs can dominate your CPU, in turn not being able to power DLSS or FSR efficiently, since scaling technologies use CPU power to run. Now I'm sure there's several optimizations they can perform to help things, but I don't see much happening. But yes, it is still much better than priority. I usually never get lower than 60 FPS, but of course, hitting 100 FPS is almost impossible, no matter what the settings. Multiplayer PvP is a bit of a different story because there are no swarms of mobs around you. I averaged around 75 to 80 FPS at 4K. No real deviation even when you have a full roster of players in your match. Even at 1080p, I might get a few extra frames, but nothing crazy. And of course, your FPS will greatly depend on the map and how many mobs are being thrown at you at any given time. But if you were like me, I honestly had too much fun killing everything to notice any drops. Overall, there might be some general improvements that might help down the line, like frame generation. But until then, GeForce Now struggles to hit the mark on the entire platform. Even the Ultimate tier struggles to hit the frames the Ultimate tier is known for, and never really does. I never hit 120 FPS once. Of course, frame generation should fix that. We'll have to test the game again once they drop a solid update, probably in Season 1. So if you like this overview of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 on Priority and Ultimate tiers of GeForce Now, give us a like. Also, make sure to join as a member of the channel or join our Patreon and our Discord links below. And above all else, make sure to subscribe to keep it locked right here, at the only place where you can do battle in gaming heaven, Cloud Gaming Battle. I'm the Black Knight, and I'll see you in Season 1.